Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Birds. Today, we have some NFL playoff predictions. The 2024 playoff picture is set. Wildcard weekend is right around the corner. Let's get into our game picks. I also will talk spreads of these games, but mainly focusing on who I think is going to advance and end up playing in the Super Bowl and ultimately naming our Super Bowl champion. Obviously, everyone's going to have different opinions. Let me know in the comments section who you're picking to win the Super Bowl and how awful these picks I give are. But let's hop right into it. I'm going to start in the AFC with the Cleveland Browns versus the Houston Texans. A lot to be said for the Deshaun Watson Bowl. Obviously, Watson not playing in this game, but the Cleveland Browns going up against his former team in Houston, who clinched the AFC South with the Jacksonville Jaguars' loss on Sunday. Two frontrunners for Coach of the Year. This matchup's all going to come down to, can the Browns defense slow down projected Rookie of the Year CJ Stroud? Browns are favored in this game at 2.5 points. I personally will take the Houston Texans to win this game at home. CJ Stroud has by far looked to be the best quarterback out of this year's draft class, surpassing Bryce Young in Carolina. Stroud, to go along with that Nico Collins connection he's developed this season. One of the bigger difference makers in this game is going to be this Houston Texans run defense. Second least amount of yards per carry given up on the ground, which is surprising because in previous years, the Texans have been a Swiss cheese defense on the ground. Derrick Henry running through this defense for 200 yards countless times. But that's no longer the case. Like I said, the second least amount of yards given up per carry on the ground, this Texans defense. Will Anderson, a promising rookie out of the University of Alabama. He looks phenomenal for this team. Derek Stingley on the outside has come into his own out of LSU. I really like this young core the Texans have. Go along with a very enthusiastic fan base around this team. Give me CJ Stroud to overcome Myles Garrett and this tough Browns defense. Not to mention Joe Flacco making his case for comeback player of the year. But I think this young ascending Texans defense at home will be the difference maker. I will take them in game one. Next game, the Tyreek Hill Bowl, returning to Kansas City for the first time. Miami is dealing with so many injuries across the board. Jalen Waddle, high ankle sprain, maybe the most notable injury. We don't know if he's going to play. He probably will. But a team that is banged up across the board. We saw them lose to Buffalo at home in a game they really need to win to host a home playoff game. I don't necessarily think the Chiefs are as dominant as they have been in years past. There are obviously some holes in this team. In Arrowhead against a banged up Miami defense, I'm going to take Kansas City to win in Arrowhead and cover 3.5 points. I think Chris Jones will have a huge impact on this game, disrupting what Tagovailoa wants to do. I'll take the Chiefs at home. Next game, the formerly mentioned Buffalo Bills, who just went into Miami and beat them, even with Josh Allen throwing 2 interceptions in the end zone. It all comes down to if Josh Allen can not turn the football over, this Bills team can be very dangerous in the playoffs. One of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the National Football League right now against the Steelers, who as of late have won a couple of games. But I think the difference at quarterback, Josh Allen using his legs as of late, going to be the difference maker here. TJ Watt also banged up in this game. That's probably the only chance they have to win. It's a huge defensive play. So with question marks there, I'll take the Buffalo Bills at home in front of Bills Mafia. Coming over to the NFC, we have Cowboys hosting the Packers. Mike McCarthy going up against his former team. I think the points differential mark for the Cowboys is such an insane and telling statistic about this team. They play so well at home, and on the road they have some problems. This game is going to be in Arlington, Texas. I like the Cowboys to beat the Green Bay Packers, even with Jordan Love looking pretty solid this season. I think this Cowboys offense, led by CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, near MVP season for Prescott. I think that's too much to go along with, obviously, Micah Parsons in one of the best defenses in the entire league. Give me Cowboys at home. I also will take them to cover. I think it's 7.5 points maybe. Cowboys are just an absolute machine at home. They cover these giant spreads. I like them to cover this against a Green Bay defense that has been cut up pretty frequently this season. All right, next game I want to talk about might be an unpopular pick. Detroit Lions have become maybe one of the favorites of all these teams that don't have a dog left in the fight. I'm personally rooting for the Detroit Lions, but I think Matt Stafford returning to Detroit probably have to give the head coaching advantage to Sean McVay, even though everybody loves Dane Campbell. Quarterback, you have to still lean Matt Stafford, even up there in age. He's still probably the better quarterback. And a team with options like Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams emerging in the NFL rookie year. What a season he has had. I like the Rams still to go into Detroit, their first home playoff game in however many years. I love this Detroit team, but we have to admit, losing Sam Laporta in week 18, a game he really didn't need to be playing in, I believe that's going to factor into this offense. Probably the second most important pass catcher on this team, obviously outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. With no Laporta, they're going to lean more heavily on this run game. While the Rams were a middle-of-the-pack rush defense, I still think they're just a healthier team when it comes to their pass catchers, have the advantage at head coach and quarterback, and that does pay dividends inside the playoffs. I like that playoff experience coming off that Super Bowl run just a couple seasons ago. I will take the Rams in an upset in the wild card weekend. Now, another upset I have is Buccaneers over Eagles. It is a home game for the Buccaneers, but Eagles are favored by 2.5 points. This team is absolutely bludgeoned when it comes to their offense. I mean, A.J. Brown dealing with a knee injury. He's probably going to play. Devonta Smith probably plays, did sit out last week, and Jalen Hurts with a dislocated finger coming in that Week 18 loss to the New York Giants. All these guys I'm expecting to play. I don't know exactly if they will or not, but if they do play, I still like the Buccaneers to win this game at home. Let's not forget, 2 years ago, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers hosted this Eagles team at home against Jalen Hurts. They did take care of them at that point. Now, it is a completely different Eagles team, one that went to the Super Bowl last year. But this Eagles team has been falling apart over the last 4 games of the regular season. I do like the Buccaneers, led by Baker Mayfield, who is dealing with injuries of his own. At home, Raymond James Stadium, I will take the Buccaneers to win this game against the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. Heading back to the AFC, we have Houston going up the number 1 seed Baltimore Ravens on rest after the wild card. I will take Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson probably wins the MVP. This defense for Baltimore looks absolutely ridiculous. If anything is going to stop Offensive Rookie of the Year CJ Stroud, it's going to be this Baltimore defense. Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, 2 of the fastest, most dynamic linebackers in the game to go along with an electric quarterback. I will take Ravens pretty easily against CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. Then we have Chiefs and Bills in the divisional round. I feel like we see this matchup nearly every season in the playoffs. Bills go into Arrowhead early in the season. They get the win off a, I guess, questionable offsides call on Kansas City. Not really that questionable if you look at it, but definitely did ruffle some feathers for the Chiefs. I will take Buffalo. Again, Josh Allen, if he can control the turnovers, mainly the interceptions, which he hasn't been doing this season. I think he's got nearly an interception every single game this year. We've seen over the past 5 games, he's running more often, nearly 10 carries per game for Josh Allen. That's the part of his game that is pretty much unstoppable. Not necessarily Lamar Jackson-esque, but more Cam Newton with the power that he brings. And I think that is the difference in this game. Kansas City, their pass catchers obviously have struggled this season, mainly Kadarius Toney with the drops. But Travis Kelce is not the same guy that we've seen in years past. Age 34, I believe. You've seen some serious regression from Travis Kelce. Not necessarily saying he's cooked, but we have seen his numbers dip off a bit. So I will take Bills. A home game, I might add. They get that number 2 seed after what it looked like they might miss the playoffs altogether. I will take Buffalo to win this game at home in front of Bills Mafia against the defending Super Bowl champions. So now I have Kansas City and Philadelphia both out of the playoffs by the second round, last year's Super Bowl matchup. To the NFC, our number 1 seed in the NFC, San Francisco 49ers against the Los Angeles Rams. During their Super Bowl run, Rams took the 49ers out, led by Jimmy Garoppolo at that point. Different team here. Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel. This team is absolutely loaded. And that's only mentioning the offensive side of the ball. Equally loaded on defense with guys like Chase Young, newly addition, mid-season trade, Nick Bosa, and obviously more studs at the linebacker position. Fred Warner, one of the best linebackers in all of football. I think this 49ers team is an absolute wagon. All they got to do is get adequate play from Brock Purdy. The talent on this 49ers team, offensive defense, I think is way too strong. Next, we'll go to Tampa Bay and Dallas. This would be a rematch of last year's wildcard game when Dallas on the road ended Tom Brady's career. That game in Tampa Bay. This game would be in Dallas. Like I said earlier, Dallas at home is a completely different animal. Micah Parsons should dominate this game against Baker Mayfield. I think this one could get out of hand. Dak Prescott can play like he has all season, limiting those interceptions like he had last year. I think this game should be a rout in Dallas. Should handle this one pretty easily. Back to the AFC, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, 2 of the more dynamic runners in the league. Lamar Jackson, a little more electric. Josh Allen, a little more power. This game would be in Baltimore as they are the number 1 seed. We've seen Harbaugh struggle in the playoffs outside of that Super Bowl run they had. While the Bills are dealing with some injuries to their secondary, I do like Josh Allen to win this football game. A grinded out game against a great defense. I think the power run of Josh Allen is going to be too much You get a hat on a hat inside the red zone and just shove Josh Allen right up the gut. I think that play is going to be unstoppable, like we saw with Cam Newton in that Carolina run until they ran into Peyton Manning all those years back. I think the pass rush is just enough for Buffalo to get to Lamar Jackson in this game. And until I see the Ravens have some elongated success in the playoffs, I'm going to go with maybe the hottest team in football, in the Buffalo Bills, to get to the Super Bowl. Back to the NFC, again, we've already seen early in the season, Cowboys at 49ers, a Sunday night football game a lot of people witnessed. This game was not pretty. Dallas got crushed by that 49ers defense. Prescott looked abysmal in this game, looking like 2022 Prescott, throwing for, I want to say, 3 interceptions against his 49ers front. And that was before Chase Young even got to the party. Now they have edge rushers on both sides, Chase Young and Nick Bosa. That is a lot of firepower. You're going to have to run the ball to keep those guys honest. And I don't think Dallas's rushing attack is going to be strong enough to win this football game. We've seen Tony Pollard not be able to excel in that lead back role. Obviously, Zeke's numbers weren't great last year, but he was providing a service to this Cowboys team I think a lot of people underappreciated. Pollard comes in fresh on second to third down in non-rushing situations and was an electric spark off the bench for this team. This year, when you know that Pollard's coming, it has not been pretty for him. Maybe one of the most underwhelming running backs in 2023. With that being said, I like this 49ers team a lot. I'm going to take them to beat Dallas, probably in a closer game than what we saw early in the year, but still, I like the 49ers to win this football game at home as the number 1 seed. Then a game a lot of people I think would be excited about. Josh Allen obviously has the edge at quarterback over a guy like Brock Purdy, such a dynamic player like we've been alluding to. But this 49ers team is so deep on every single level of football. I mean, when you can get a 7th round quarterback like Brock Purdy to play elite game managing style of a play, not necessarily going to win you a football game, but he's going to distribute it to the guys that can win you the football game. I think this bye week is going to help them get some guys healthy, like a Christian McCaffrey who's dealing with an injury, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, guys who have dealt with injuries in the past. This team, when fully healthy, I think is one of the most unstoppable teams in the NFL. One sole blemish on the resume when fully healthy, and that was against Baltimore. If they can avoid Baltimore, I really like this 49ers team. I still think they have a chance to beat the Ravens in the playoffs if they do meet in the Super Bowl. But with one of the best offenses we've seen in recent memory, with weapons like McCaffrey, Deebo, Ayuk, and Kittle, you just need Brock Purdy to be composed under pressure and deliver the football to these guys, because you can't guard all of them. I think this team is too special. They won't be able to retain everybody going forward. As they stand this year, I think this is your Super Bowl champion. I am going with the San Francisco 49ers to win the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. Let me know what you think of these picks. If you agree or disagree, drop it in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time with another episode of the Fantasy Birds.